Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I am your host, Alex Martinez, and today I am really excited to have Rick Jungkuntz on the show out of Atlanta, Georgia. He is a black belt under Leo Nogueira, and he trains at Alliance HQ in Atlanta. Rick, welcome to the show, brother.
Man, thank you so much. Been watching for a long time. Super excited. Love your questions. Love the way you drive your podcast. So great opportunity for me as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So let's get right into the entrepreneurship side of your life. It seems like you're a serial entrepreneur. I'd like to know what kind of businesses you're in, and what and how, kind of your marketing strategies for the businesses.
Sure. So I'm in the business of helping people. It's something that was instilled in me from the day I was born from my mother. My mother has always been a humanitarian. She's always given more than she's received. And that's just the way I've always grown up. And, being a person who I told you when I was adopted when I was 10 years old, I've been very independent at a very young age. And while that has its benefits and teaches you to do things on your own, you also have this negative connotation that you don't have the help that you needed because you could have got further if you had someone in your corner. And so for me personally, whether it comes to jiu-jitsu, relationships, friendships, brotherhood, business, I always try to be the person that I wish I had when I was in that scenario. So when it comes to business, I didn't go to school for marketing. I went to school to create Pixar movies and video games because Pixar, Toy Story, all those things were coming out right as I was going up. And I was like, oh, that really fascinates me. But then one of my buddies introduced me to marketing and said, you'd be really good at it. You're smart, blah, 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 blah. And the thing that I really caught on about marketing was that it applies to everyone and everything. So no matter what industry I go in, who I work with, no matter what the COVID does or the stock market does or the recession does, marketing is always needed and people always need it, and I can always help everyone. So I'm mainly a marketing consultant. I own two businesses. One of them is called Gym Grow. We're changing the name to Gym Genius with the expansion of AI. So it's gymgenius.ai. Check it out. And then I also have another, and that's focused mainly on fitness facilities like LA Fitness, F45, those types of facilities. And then I also have a marketing business, another LLC called Nurture Ninja, which was a tie between my ability to nurture leads and my black belt being a ninja. So I kind of put those together and made Nurture Ninja. And that one's focused on martial arts gyms and then also other industries outside of fitness. So we also have a tattoo division. So I work with tattoo parlors and help them gain business, learn modern marketing tactics and things like that. So I really, really, really love helping small business people that are self-driven, driving the business themselves, kind of doing things the old school way, and helping them take modern tactics, bring it into their business so that they can free themselves from working in the business and work more on the business. And so that's kind of where I found my niche and that, I really enjoy and find my passion.
Yeah, I love it. I started my business about 3 years ago, and no, almost exactly 3 years ago. And, you go through ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes you're like working on the business heavy, and then something happens where you have to work in the business again. And, for me, it's been a really tough thing to be able to structure and structure my days and manage my energy, right? I don't really think about it as time more as much as I do managing my energy.
Love that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you kind of how it started. It was I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? I had a day job and I had my business. It's a jiu-jitsu academy out of Mesa, Arizona. And then, so I had to manage like, okay, I'm teaching in the morning, going to work all day, and then teaching in the evenings, and then cleaning up all the stuff and do it all over again. Well, then I went from that to going all in, right? I picked a date. My wife and I worked at it, and we found, we just made the plunge, took the plunge, right? Well, now I'm managing my schedule because I'm doing the academy full time, and life is different and blah blah. Well, then I have to take another step back into the academy where I went from teaching 3 nights a week to teaching 6 classes a day, right? So how do you take a step back, and get the most out of each day when it's such a whirlwind? How do you recommend people? I don't even know how to structure the question because I'm kind of in it right now. But what's some good advice for somebody who has to take a step back into the business instead of on the business?
So it's so funny you say that because I'm actually experiencing that same thing right now. For the past, for the first 3 to 4 years of the business, I was in it. I built it myself in my spare bedroom during COVID. I didn't have employees. I was desperate. I had to do it myself. And plus, I was learning, right? And then for the last 2 years, I built my team and was able to take a step back, which to me also makes you kind of complacent. So now that I'm reflecting on it and coming back in, I'm realizing that I kind of made a mistake by stepping out so early. So now, luckily, my back was to the wall. Something happened. It brought me back into the business. And then I had all this revelations of like, oh, wow, I should have never left. I missed this. I missed that. While I was gone, this was slipping. The quality of work was down. I pride myself on world-class support for my clients. And I noticed that they weren't getting that once I stepped out.
Mm.
Once I stepped back in and I started having, my frustrations that I had when I was out, I realized when I stepped back in that the reason those frustrations ever happened is because I wasn't the one who was driving it.
Mm.
Because I'm an expert at communicating with clients, building relationships, helping them understand value. My employees are not.
Yeah.
And I expected them to do something they're not good at. And so then when the results weren't there, I blamed them. And slowly I've realized that actually it was on me because I'm the expert in that field and I should have never stepped out because I never found anyone to replace my skill set. So now that I've stepped back in, I had conversation with clients, I'm starting to get the results I wanted. I'm like, that was the part right there. I was too busy on freeing up my time so I could train, coach more, all of that stuff, when really I needed to drive the business better, stick to maybe funnel what I worked on, right? The $10 task I need to pass down, but the expensive task I need to make sure I'm still handling.
Yeah.
And so delegation is a really tough part, but I have the same problem you do with schedules because I want to train. I'm a competitor. I have master worlds in a week. I teach 7 classes a week. I also own 2 businesses. I have a girlfriend, a relationship, family, house, all the things I have to take care of. And I think one of the things that I've done is I've figured out what my schedule is and what works for me. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people like to say, early bird gets the worm. You guys should be up at 4 a.m. and all of those different things. Well, that doesn't work for me. I'm a night owl. I also train at night. I don't sleep as well, which means I can't wake up early or I don't have the energy to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So for me personally, all I've done is shifted my schedule later. So instead of me getting up at 7 a.m. and going to bed at 8, I get up at 10 and go to bed at 12. I still have the same amount of hours, but I know where I'm most effective. And me personally, where I'm most effective is at night. When I'm sitting there at my computer, I can daydream, I can think. I don't know what it is, but that's the way I've always been. And that's where I find myself to be the most effective. But strategy wise, one of the things I do is I block off my calendar in certain chunks. So for example, I know that I train at F45 Monday, which is my weight training, from 12 to 1. So from 9 to 10, I do my morning routine. Wake up, drink my coffee, get my mind right, look at my emails, kind of just plotting out the next couple. Actually, really what I'm doing is I'm looking for fires that I may have missed the day before or the weekend, right? Hold on, did anything burn down over the weekend that I didn't notice?
Yeah.
And then from 10 to 11:30, for example, I say, okay, let me get with my team, see what the plan is for today, make sure everybody's on the right page, structure the right way. Then I go do F45. I spend 45 minutes eating, cooling down, taking showers, all of those things. And then I have my client meetings during the day. And I do those typically from 2 to 5. And that includes meeting my co-owner, talking to him about different strategies, booking any meetings, things like that. And then from 5:30 to 9, I coach and train, right? So I coach 2 classes and then I train. And then I come home at 10 o'clock. And from 10 to 12 is when I do anything creative, where I might make some videos, do some editing. One thing I like to do is I like to watch SportsCenter on one screen and then the other screen I'm working on my work. I can enter a couple things, watch TV, enter a couple things, build my presentation. Oh, that looks cool. As soon as I feel like I hit a dry spot where I'm like, my creativity is not flowing, I'm like, I'll just watch TV for a while. And then something will be in my head and I have it on the screen. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And then I start, so I try to do that because I've just found that I have ADHD. And one of my old bosses, this is the greatest part about working with other people really closely, is they identify things about you that you don't identify in yourself. And one of my old bosses told me, he said, the reason why I always give you new products or new projects is because you're very intelligent. You learn things very quickly and you get bored just as quickly. He's like, as soon as you master something, you're done with it. And since he said that, I've reflected on my life and realized that's the reason why I gave up on baseball. That's the reason why I gave up on relationships. That's the reason why, because I mastered it. I'm like, oh, I already got this. Time to move on to something else, right? Which made me a jack of all trades and a master of none, which some people say that's good. Some people say that's bad. I don't necessarily think it's either way. But which actually leads into why jujitsu has been so powerful for my life, because I can't master it.
That was going to be my
I've
statement. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the thing that's changed my life, because it's taught me to be persistent, to stay with it, to not give up through, even when I always tell people jujitsu gives you exactly what you need. When you're feeling good, when I'm going into, it happened to me yesterday. I'm going into Master Worlds feeling stronger than ever, better than ever. And a guy that I always beat tapped me twice. And I was like, I can't believe that just happened the week before. And then you start thinking, maybe I'm not as good. Maybe I'm not prepared. Maybe right. And then it makes you refocus. And, so jujitsu is, I love it so much.
Yeah. How did you find it? How did jujitsu come into your life?
So this is a hilarious story. Growing up, I was a big fan of WWE wrestling. Me and my best friend used to record videos way back in the day before Jackass and all those videos. We have them, and one day we're going to release them, but we used to record wrestling videos where we would make our own backyard wrestling, right? Well, I always liked Ken Shamrock, and Ken Shamrock did the toe hold, and I liked all these submissions. So then it evolved into a game we used to play called Submit, where me and him would just wrestle and just do wrestling moves, the figure four, the scorpion, all that. And whoever tapped out, like one of us would win, and we'd be like, ha, I beat you. But we didn't realize that we were like, quote unquote, doing jujitsu or sambo or even grappling. We were just mimicking what we saw in the WWE, right?
Yeah.
So I was a big fan of that. And we saw Ken Shamrock. And then one day he was like, Ken Shamrock's like having a real fight. And we were like, what? Like, no way. Like, like, this is real. This is before I even knew what the UFC was, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, Ken Shamrock's going to kill any man on this planet, because if you've ever seen him, he's a specimen.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's no way that anyone can beat him. And so we went to Blockbuster in the back room, rented the UFC right before, kids probably don't know anything about that. Get the video, we watched it, and then I watched Royce Gracie. And I could not believe, I still can't believe to this day, that 180-pound, 5'10", 5'11" guy, 18-year-old kid went out there and pretty much dominated and had his way with them.
Yeah.
And so then after that, we were like, what is this thing? And so we started watching UFC, Tito Ortiz, and following that train. Then in college, I moved in with a couple of guys who trained jiu-jitsu. One was a blue belt, one was a purple belt. And they would tell me about the moves, and, oh, this is what he's doing, and that's what he's doing. And I wrestled in high school. I went to state, and so I understood grappling a little bit. And so they're like, yeah, they have schools, and you can learn this art. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you can choke people, and you can do all these submissions. And I'm like, no way. Like, I was 26, 28, I've been competitive my whole life. I didn't have anything competitive. I was playing softball because I used to play baseball my whole life. And I was like, man, I just need something. I need something. Like competitive fire was just still burning in me right now. I'm an ultra competitive person. And so then one day my ex-girlfriend came home at the time. She's like, hey, there's this jujitsu place. I saw it on the sign on the street. You want to go by there later today? And I was like, yeah, of course. So we walked in there, and it was a karate place that was trying to develop a jiu-jitsu program. It was ran by a blue belt, which at the time I didn't even know if blue belt was good or bad, or if that mattered, or how it is now. They say if you can't learn from a black belt, whatever. So I started learning, and he started teaching me about jiu-jitsu and sequencing, and I fell in love with it. And then within a month, my friends were like, you should do a tournament. You should do a tournament, And guess what the first tournament was? Naga, right? The white belt Naga experience.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my coach, and no offense to him, my coach at the time, no offense to him at all, but he told me, he said, don't go. Don't do it too early. You're not ready. You're not going to like it. It's going to be a bad experience. But I had wrestled before, and I knew, I'm like, if I could just like hold him down, I feel like I'll be fine. Because I knew a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I was doing decent in the gym, right? Well, I thought I was decent. And so I went to Naga, did pretty well. Won a couple no-gi matches, won a couple gi matches. Lost to the best guys, of course, a 4-stripe white belt. He did a Kimura on me. I was like, that guy was incredible. I don't know if I'll ever be that good, but And so, but what it did is it opened my eyes to the scale of jiu-jitsu. because I saw all the people in all the gyms, and they're like, yeah, this gym is here and this gym is there. And I saw all these people coaching, and I was like, what? This is like a team thing? And then I started doing my research, and that's when I moved to Eddie Camden's gym, because I wanted to, well, what ultimately happened is I went to a gym called Unit 2. No offense to those guys either, but I just wasn't ready for that. I was thrown into the Shark Tank immediately, day one, getting beat up by purple, brown, and black belts. And I got physically abused. And I was so beat up and so hurt and so mentally drained that I was like, I don't think this is for me. Like, maybe I'm not tough enough. Like, I don't know what this is, but my arm hurts, my head hurts. I can't make it to training on time. I feel like I'm gonna throw up all the time. Like, I hadn't been pushed like that ever in my life.
What year was that?
That was in 2010.
Yeah.
And so then I took a lot of time off from jujitsu because I was hurt all the time. And you know how it is. You're like, I don't want to go back, tired, and you know, that whole feeling.
Yeah.
And so then somebody invited me to the Tiger Academy. And that's when I learned about a fundamentals program where you didn't even spar. You just learned the techniques. And that kind of gave me an opportunity to learn some stuff, fall in love with the art, learn about the Gracies. Eddie Camden is like one of the best instructors I've ever met in my life. His enthusiasm for teaching and his enthusiasm for jiu-jitsu sucked me in. And just learning from him, following with him, listening to him, he was very close to the Gracies. It just made me fall in love with the lifestyle itself. And then I also love the art as well. So that's kind of how I got my start and grew, got my blue belt from those guys, and then eventually moved to Alliance.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what that when you walk into a jiu-jitsu academy, I feel like walking in day one is way easier than walking in day one after a layoff.
Yep.
Because day one, you have no idea what you're getting into. After a layoff, you know exactly what you're getting into. It can be a rough experience, man. A good friend of mine, Tom Goggin, came out and moved out here from California. I'm in Arizona, and he walked into the academy after a long layoff as a purple belt. And all I could think of was like, that's ballsy. And good on him. You know, he stuck with it. He's a black belt now, but that was a tough road. That was a tough road, man, for those guys that come in after a long layoff.
It's probably one of the toughest things, but it's also the reason that motivates me not to take time off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taught me a lesson, especially when I'm injured, that I still show up to the gym and do whatever I can. For example, I broke my arm last June, and within a month I was still training. Now I was doing drills and things like it's what's funny is my doctor, my orthopedic surgeon, he trains jujitsu with us. And so when I went and saw him, he told me, hey, you dislocated your elbow, you tore all these ligaments, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, what do I do? And he's like, well, I'm not even going to tell you because I know you're not going to do it because I seen you at the gym. So he's like, wear a sleeve, try not to injure it. Just, dude, like, don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
You know? And one of the things he told me in that injury, which I thought was brilliant and also gave me another perspective on jujitsu, I talked to him about like stiff arming people. Like, I'm having problems. I can't put any leverage and weight on this arm. And he said, let me ask you a serious question. Do you want to be able to do this for the rest of your life? Or do you want to be able to do this for the rest of your life?
Oh, man.
And I said, yeah, I'd rather be able to do this. He's like, then maybe you want to listen to what I'm telling you and don't worry about stiff arming people so much because your arm doesn't need to be extended in that position.
Yeah.
And so then as I was training, I did the old hold the belt, defend myself with one arm the best I can, give up positions, lose, get beat. But it also taught me to find new opportunities and use my jiu-jitsu. I learned like my tripod sweep became a lot more powerful. My sickle sweep became a lot more powerful because I only needed one grip. Yeah. I could use my feet to off balance them and things like that. So it had its been, and also taught me to be a better partner and a better teammate and learn to give to my teammates and work on my defense and let them work on offense while I was off, on the sideline, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine tore his bicep. My buddy Dan tore his bicep, and when he came back onto the mats, that's a pretty long road back because he had to get all kinds of surgery and stuff. But he actually put a red band around his arm to just let everybody know not to attack that one. That kind of worked. It kind of worked for him. So
I just saw a video on Instagram the other day that said he did a test. So he told his teammates, hey, I have a leg injury. And all 9 opponents at some point hurt his leg. So next time he got hurt, he did a test. He didn't tell anyone. And he was like, and nothing happened.
That's right. Yeah.
So I relate it back to, if you've heard the saying about when you're skiing through trees, It says if you focus on the tree, you hit the tree. If you focus
Yeah.
on the space, you hit the space. So sometimes I think when people say like, hey, my ankle's hurt, you look at the ankle and you naturally want to grab it. And you're like, I know you just told me not to do that. So
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit about your competition life, because I own one business. I work there and I have a hard time training. I have a hard time finding time to train. How do you find the time to train, especially when you're going to go to a master's? I imagine you're a master's 1, maybe 2,
Three.
3. Okay, so master's 3, super competitive. I mean, I remember when master seniors was like 3 people, in the division, right? And now I don't know. I don't know about you, but I've got like 35 and I'm master's 5.
61.
Yeah. Yeah. So, basically my mentality is like, okay, I'm going to train and there's 100 people that I have to fight and it's going to take all day and I'm just going to train accordingly. How do you find the time to make sure that you're prepared mentally and physically for that competition?
So I took a lesson. I used to approach this differently. And I think it's because I felt insecure about my jujitsu. So I felt like I needed to train hard and more all the time. And while I think that does work, I think there's also, I heard Tom DeBlas talk about this, how he wished he wouldn't have went so hard for so long because what it does to your body long term. And then I heard George St. Pierre's coach, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and then also Danny here talk about this, who said, in reality, you only need 3 to 5 hard rolls a week to really be ready before a tournament. You don't have to do 3 to 5 hard rolls every single day. And I just realized when I did do that, if I did that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I definitely was less effective. And then I could train hard again on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, I was less effective. I was like, is that the best way to approach it? Or should I try to do, now here's what I do. I do a light roll in the very beginning, usually with my girlfriend. We warm up, I let her do some things. My next roll is a medium, a blue belt, a purple belt that I know is going to put up a good fight, but I'm still physically stronger and I can control them in positions if I have to. My third fight is really hard. My fourth fight is really hard. My fifth one, I sit one out. My sixth one, I might go back to medium or hard. So I've just found a way to kind of structure my training in a roller coaster format to where I'm building up and then cooling down and then building up and then cooling down, kind of how a tournament goes. Right?
Yep.
You build yourself up, you have it, and then you have a 20-minute layoff or 40-second, and then you got to warm yourself back up, and then you got a 6-hour gap until the absolute, and you're all the way cool, and then you have to warm back up. And so I've just tried to be smarter with my training and not so physically demanding and focus more on my technique, my positions, what works for me, and using my energy in the right places. And I think that comes with, being a black belt has been one of the most powerful learning experience I've ever been in my life. My coach, Leo, told me this. He said, I've learned more at black belt than I did at any belt ever. And that's so hard to understand until you're there. And I think the reason is because since I know the basic fundamental details of every position, when he's teaching something, I don't have to focus on those things. I can focus on the minute details, the angles, the grip change, the things that other people don't see because they're worried about like, where is he leaning? What grip did he grab? I already know what grips he grabs. I'm not worried about that. I see, did you see what he did with his head? And I was like, no, they didn't. And so I think that kind of helps me in my training when I'm focusing on those things. I don't have to be so powerful and explosive all the time, but is my precision, is my timing, Lucas Lepre talks about this all the time, about the timing and efficiency. Is your timing on the right thing? And I think that's the thing. When I focus more on that, I've actually found to be more effective than when I'm just like going hard, quote unquote, pull out.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. What about the mental side? What do you do for the mental side?
So the mental side for me has improved a lot. Before I started jujitsu, my mom would tell you I was probably one of the most negative people. I thought the world was against me all the time. And it was something that I needed jujitsu to beat out of me. And it's part of the reason why I train jujitsu is because jujitsu is so hard and challenging and it makes me so uncomfortable being in front of a tournament, losing in front of people, getting physically beat up, that it makes the best come out of me. And so I like to challenge myself. That's the reason why I do tournaments. I absolutely do not like competing. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. I have a lot of anxiety. I don't want to cut weight. If you lose, it's embarrassing. But that's what I found that I needed to be the best version of myself. And so mentally, what I try to do is let myself know that, with every challenge comes great opportunity, and under pressure creates diamonds. And I'm trying to become a diamond. And the only way I become a diamond is through pressure.
Mm.
And so I'm slowly, and that's why I wear this shirt. Atlas is one of my biggest heroes because he put the world on his shoulders and he didn't complain. He kept pushing.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of way I look at myself whenever, something happens. I tell my students this all the time. When I'm in my darkest moments in the bottom of Mount, I just ask myself, is this all we got? Is this it, Rick? You built 40 years of your life, all the things we've been through, all the struggles, the family, the relationships. You're going to give up now?
Mm.
You can't handle 10 more seconds. You can't handle 26 more seconds. I can handle more than that. I can take more than that. And I just positive reinforce in myself and keep talking to myself. No, we're stronger than that. We're better than that. The real thing that pushes me in jiu-jitsu, and people, I think people highly underestimate this. They highly underestimate this. I don't think about my teammates and my team and looking good on Instagram and all the medals. What I think about is all the time I sacrificed with my friends and family so that I could become this black belt. And how dare I let them down by not giving my absolute best for the past 12 years when I missed birthdays and Thanksgivings and I couldn't go drink and I can't go out. Because when I raise my hand, I want to say, Mom, this is why.
Yeah.
This is why I did this, because I'm building a better version of myself. So I hope you guys appreciate, understand, and know why I'm missing the time. It's not that I didn't want to, it's I needed to for me. And I think, luckily I have great friends and family and they totally understand that about me. But I think that's a part that a lot of people misunderstand is like, you're sacrificing a lot of social things and family that, in my opinion, is more important than jujitsu. And so you need to show that equal respect.
I love that you said that, man. That's I go through some similar stuff, right? I'm a pretty emotional guy. I tell my
I
students.
almost cried right then.
Yeah, man. That really touched me, man. Thank you for sharing that, because I tell my students that I'm on the verge of tears like all the time. And when somebody comes to me, and says something that, they share their story, I'm like, I have to like kind of fight back the tears. But there's times when I'm in the warm-up area and I throw my hoodie over my eyes because I think about the exact same things. I think about that stupid outlet that I haven't changed out. I think about, those weeds that are in the backyard. I think about the things that are left undone so that we can do this jujitsu thing and compete. And you're absolutely right. It is an insult. It is an insult to those that, I hate to use the word put up with, but that support you on that, to give up in the last 20 seconds, to give up in the last 15 seconds. I preach to my students, you have to be willing to do one more thing than they're willing to defend. Yep. You just got to dig, suck up, eat, swallow your guts and just go after it. You know what I mean? And I 100% agree with what you just said.
And I think that mentality that you're talking about doing one more thing, comes from the freedom of not being afraid to lose. Because I see a lot of people in tournaments, and this is how I started too, but I've told myself that I'm not going to be this way moving forward, is fighting to not lose. I want to fight to win. And more importantly, which actually more important to me now, is I want to fight to show my game and my ability and show my coaches and show all my people what I've learned and what I've developed. Yeah. That is really important to me in jiu-jitsu. Like, I want to show them, like, no, this is what I'm capable of. This is why I'm your instructor. This is why I'm a black belt. This is why Leo gave it to me. This is why I put so much time into it. This is what I've spent my time on. This is my art, my CD, my album, my movie release. This is it. Right. Yeah. And so it actually hurts me and I had a match in Atlanta Open. I fought the number 3 guy in the world in Atlanta Open, my first match, and I was in closed guard the entire time, and he wouldn't open up, I wouldn't open up, we couldn't make it, and he won by advantage. And I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather lose trying. I'd rather open up, you beat me, you passed my guard, and I just made a mistake, than just trying to. One of my friends told me this. He's like, Rick, you're really good at losing and winning jiu-jitsu. You're not good at winning tournaments. And there's a major difference between winning jiu-jitsu and winning tournaments.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, in the IBJJF, you need to learn to win tournaments and not win jiu-jitsu. And that takes an evolution of learning the rule set, learning the styles, things like that. So yeah. I'm trying to be different than that. I'm trying to open up and like make some things happen and do a highlight, so I can be on YouTube.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's something that I'm working on. I've been working on this year, and the funny thing is, if you're anything like me, I love that I love that stage so much. As frustrating and as that
Yeah.
anxiety filled as that place is, whenever like I haven't podiumed my black belt yet at Master Worlds, and in my losses, as I'm tying my belt, I've said the same thing in my head. I can't believe I have to wait another year.
I know.
Ah, man, it just sucks. So what I've been working on is I call it my no regrets approach. Especially like I know I'm down, right? Even if it's like 0-0, and I know the ref's decision is going to go to the other guy, because he's just maybe a little bit more aggressive. That last minute, I've been putting myself in situations where, I tell myself, what have you got to lose? Open up, open up
You're
that.
losing either way.
Yeah. And just, you're losing either way. Exactly. Do something they're not expecting. What about opening up and just, plowing your way to your feet and trying to get that shot or trying to get something right to get that ref's decision or at least 2 points. That's what I've been working on. And I hope it pays off big.
I love that because we talk to that to our competitors all the time of like risk it, losing by an advantage and losing by 9 points, losing by tapping. They're all the same.
All the
It
same.
makes no difference. But
Yeah.
the difference is, did you try?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Were you willing to open up to make it happen? And sometimes, like you said, which this is a whole nother jujitsu tactic that I kind of talk to my teammates about, is like sometimes you don't need to worry about technique. You're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about a technique like, oh, I need to do a single leg here, or I need to grab this grip. No, sometimes you just need to push them off you.
Yeah.
Like that's just it.
Yeah.
Like, push them off, wrestle up, come up, be rough, be aggressive,
Yep.
that type of thing. But because we start the way we do, everyone starts that way, and then we beat it out of them. No, don't do that. Be calm, be patient. And then we're like, hey, can you go back to when you were white belt and a little more savage? You're gonna have to pull that out from the worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's certain things that we do that are kind of like instinct, and we have to fight those. Like, well, I can't open up my guard because he might pass. Well, like you said, you're gonna lose anyway. Open it up, man. Let's see what happens. And that's when the fight becomes fun, right? I love scrambles. I love because I work on my cardio all the time. So let's test it, man. Let's see what's up.
Yep, yep. I'm definitely a proponent of opening the game up. That works best for me.
Hmm.
So because I want jujitsu to beat me.
Yeah.
Technique for technique, me for you. Give me your best game, not your best stalling game, your best like real game.
Yeah.
But that takes two to tango. And the same thing happens in the gym. That's why you have good training partners. You have bad training partners. You have some people that try to win in the gym and some people that open up and get, I tell my training partners all the time, you got in 3 positions in 5 minutes. I got in 48. They won. I tapped 3 times, you tapped 0, but who really won? I won.
Right. Yeah.
Because now I have more experience in 50-50 than you do because you're scared to even go there.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Leo talks about that all the time about like he's an expert at deep half guard. I'm a purple belt in deep half guard at best.
Yeah.
If he's a black belt and I'm a purple belt in that position, he's going to win every single time.
Yep.
But the only way you become a black belt in those positions is if you put yourself there.
Yeah. I actually, this is crazy. I want to get into coaching a little bit because I'm changing my De La Hiva game, and I did a workshop with Isaac Doderlin. Several black belts went. He's awesome. What a great human being too. He's a really cool dude. And we were, basically the light went on, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing this wrong for 10 years now. So now I'm going to change it. So now I'm going to change it. And now when I watch video, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so obvious now. Right. But anyway, so I'm changing up my De La Hiva game and I'm teaching it to my students. I'm learning it. I'm drilling it. I'm implementing it into my training. And now I'm teaching the De La Hiva that I'm learning. And it's funny how people are, I don't want to say closed-minded, but they're kind of like, what is this guy talking about? And one of my students, so we do a series, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes a month, but so we're in our 2nd week of the series. And one of my students asked me, is this even going to work? And I'm like, I just stopped and I paused for a second. And, the obvious answer is like, well, it worked for a world champion, but, I wanted to come up with the right answer. So I paused for a second. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Since we started a week and a half ago, how much of this have you drilled and how much have you tried it, in live rounds? He goes 0. I said, well, no, then it's not going to work. Right. And like you said, if somebody's a purple belt in deep half and the person you're going against is a black belt in deep half, you are going to lose. Now, you've got to be willing to be that white belt and then be that blue belt all over again, especially at black belt, right? People think it's the top of the mountain. Let me tell you guys, it's the base of the mountain.
I feel like a white belt all the time, all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you about your coaching style. I want to talk about it in terms of competition, because you said something in one of your posts that really, really caught my attention. And I listened to this several times. You talked about somewhere along the lines, you were talking about being a coach. And these are my words. Okay. I'm just, the way I processed it was sometimes you're a coach and sometimes you're a friend, right? When do you become like that hard-nosed coach versus friend? You have people that, just maybe they're a little bit, like you said, they're a little bit maybe full of themselves at blue belt, at purple, and then they get humbled and then they're insecure. How do you get those guys back to that, that fire-breathing dragon, so to speak?
So that is such a tough balance. I think one of my greatest characteristics as a coach and a jiu-jitsu training partner is emotional awareness, and having emotional awareness for all of my partners at all the time. And I actually make a mini evaluation about every single person every time we roll with them. Right when I first slap their hands, I've seen how they came in the gym, how they normally come in the gym. Today they're a little down, today they're a little up, and I kind of feel that energy when they want to roll. I already can anticipate what kind of roll they need or don't need based on that. And it's like a series of like small little details that you pick up throughout the days, weeks, and months that you add up, and you can see this person going on this trend. And then you decide, okay, when I was there, what did I want, but what did I need? And I always say jiu-jitsu always gives you what you need at the time, whether you ask for it or not. And so whenever I have a person who starts really hot, and this is actually, I see this happen actually more with women at blue to purple belt, because what I've noticed is a lot of women that join jiu-jitsu that are competitive already have natural athletic backgrounds, and the other women they're competing against don't. So usually physicality wins them a lot, and they can win just by being an athlete compared to the other women, especially in the masters division. I think like women and men in the masters division are completely different. Most men are like testosterone filled, and they're like, I think they get harder. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I think women are more mothers, and so they're coming off the sideline, and so some of these younger girls can take advantage of that. And then they reach this point where technique matters, and then they're like, uh-oh, I wasn't preparing my technique because I was winning with physicality, and now I'm starting to lose. And now I'm starting to get beat up. And now I'm starting to. So in that moment, first, what I do is I try to reinforce, friendship, teamwork, that we're in this together. I always want my teammates and my friends to know that I'm in there with them. Like I actually take my training partners, my girlfriend, losing more than I lose myself.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I could have done something more to help them. What else could I have done? I could have pushed you a little harder. So whenever I'm in those scenarios, I'm always thinking like, if this was me, what would I want and what would I do? And I try to be the best training partner I can. And so when I see that person, I know they have that in them. I'm like, I got to find a way to get this out. And I just treat them the way that I know I need to be, because that's all I know.
Yeah.
All I know is I get better when somebody's hard on me.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm in the best physical shape I've ever been in my entire life is because I joined group training jiu-jitsu, and I joined group training fitness. When it was up to me in LA Fitness, when it was up to me in these other things, I never pushed myself. When I had a coach yelling at me, that's why jiu-jitsu changed my life, because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Come in, do it. No, do the push-ups or sit on the wall. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the push-ups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the old Rick before that would just be like, I'll look on my phone, I'll hang out. And so I try to say, you know what? I'm not going to let you do this to yourself, because later on you're going to regret. And I've learned from talking to a lot of older folks that regret is probably the worst thing you could ever die with. And so I try to make sure that the people I'm talking to aren't going to regret not giving it their best, not pushing their hardest. And really, I think a lot of times people just need encouragement. I think there's so much negativity in this planet, so much negativity in social media, that while a guy may be a jerk, he may be this or that, maybe he just needs positive reinforcement, right?
Yeah.
And so, I try to be I made a post about this the other day. Man in the mirror. It all starts with the man in the mirror. You have to be the change you want to see in the world. And
Yeah.
so
I love that post, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was a fan of Michael Jackson, and that song always stuck with me. And, my dad, he said this one incredible thing one time. My dad always has the right way to just have these little sayings that just hit me the right way. He just knows how to do it. But, he basically said, why do you let these things affect you? Why do you let it only affects you because you allow it to, so like, if that is important to you, why don't you make a change? If it's not important to you, why do you worry about it? Right? Things you care about, things you can control. And so for me personally, I try to say, all right, if I expect that of somebody else, don't I have to expect that of myself first? And so once I heard that quote of change yourself, change your family, change your city, change your state, change your country, change your world, I started thinking about that. I'm like, I can't change the world because I'm a humanitarian at heart.
Yeah.
How can I change the world? I'm broken.
Right.
Grant Cardone said one time, he said, how are you going to give other people money and change the world if you don't have money? He's like, the way you help the world is you get rich first, and then you take that money and go help other people. And I'm like, I've been trying to help other people before I help myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I slowly started to realize that, like, oh, if I make myself the best person I could possibly be, then I can help more people. But if I'm broken, how am I going to help others? And so I like to look into people. I like to really invest in a person, and I look at their social media posts. I don't say anything. I watch how they interact with other people. I see their mood changing. I see how they talk. I see their little battles. I watch them roll. I see their frustration. And then I devise a plan that I think is personalized for them without ever calling them out or talking to them. Some people that's pulling them on the side. Some people that's sending an Instagram meme that kind of relates to what they're thinking. They don't even know that you know.
Yeah.
And you send it to them, and they're like, man, that really hit me. And they don't realize that I've been plotting that for a while, waiting for that moment. And then as soon as I saw it, because I have emotional awareness and I'm alive in the moment, right? I'm not just going about the motion. I'm awake and I see it. And I'm like, that's my opportunity to talk to that person. That's my opportunity to talk to that person. But I think that comes with, again, being, emotionally intelligent and caring about other people more than you care about yourself. And I've just found that the more I give, the more I receive. So I'm trying to give as much as humanly possible because I want to receive.
Yeah.
Right. If I want to be coached at a tournament, don't I have to coach?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to be supported, you got to show support, right? Same, just.
And that is a marketing strategy for all those watching. If you want to get more followers on Instagram, TikTok, more comments, more engagement, maybe you should go follow and engage.
Yeah. 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 Well, I really like, so my Instagram is, I have three, my personal one, I have the Academy one and the one for the podcast. And I kind of compartmentalize all three. And I'm thinking like, why am I doing that? Like, it's all part of my life. It's all part of me. Like, I just need to share that with the world. And my favorite posts are like, in my like personal jujitsu posts are my failures. I love posting my failures because I want people to see, like, warts and all, man, I screw things up and I lose. And you know what? I still do it. I've been the person that competes on Saturday, shows up on Monday. I always looked at, I'm so competitive that I always looked at who's better than me in this academy. And I'm like, okay, that guy. Okay, cool. I'm going to close the gap on that guy somehow. And then I'll watch what they do. I see how they go about their business. I see how they train. I see how they take care of themselves. And maybe I do something 1% better than they do. I just close that gap. Right. And every day, if you do that every day, it just pays off. It has no choice. Right.
It's so funny that you say that because I do the exact same thing. People, when I broke my arm, I had a super fight against pretty much my rival here in Georgia. He's one of the best at Master 2. He's somebody who beat me at blue and purple belt, and I couldn't fight him at brown belt. Things didn't happen. And for 6 years, I've been lining up for this match. He doesn't care because he has major accomplishments bigger than I ever did. But I was like, I need to get over this hump. I have to get over this hump. I just need it for myself because I knew in both of our matches previously, I had him beat and made a mistake in the end. And that eats me more than anything. I'd rather just lose. There's nothing worse than out techniquing a person and making one stupid mistake and losing.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in the third one, I did the exact same thing. But building up to that fight, after I had the match, and I broke my arm, it was in front of my entire family. It was on YouTube, all of that stuff, and I posted it. And everybody was like, "Why would you post that?" And I'm like, "Because I need other people to. It's not about me. I need other people to know, because especially when my family helps me understand this. Because when I go to a family reunion, I'm the hero. Like,
Mm.
you're so incredible and you're so smart and you got all this money and you got a Tesla and everything's going right in your life, and your mom, oh man, you're in the best shape of your life. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not shit.
Right.
I'm just a regular dude. I'm fat. I'm lazy. I do the same things you do. I cheat the corners. I do all of those things.
Yeah.
And so then I started realizing, like, I need to start putting that stuff out to help people realize that I'm just like you.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to overcome those things too if you follow certain things. And so, I really, and when I broke my arm, I had the same mentality you did. I said, I'm going in Monday, not because I need to, because I need them to see me in here. I'm not front and center. A black belt instructor got his arm broke in front of the entire city of Atlanta, and I'm here, right here, to take it. Yes, I did. I broke my arm. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Rick. Yep, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. And I needed you guys to see that. And I don't think people truly understood. They thought I was coming there for, stay in the gym and things like that. No, it's to send a message.
Yeah.
So hopefully that resonated.
Absolutely, as a student, that would have fired me up, man. Like, if Rick's going to show up, I'm going to show up. That would have been, yeah, that would have been that I think that sends a great positive message that, hey, you know what? We all screw up. We all fail. And all you can do is dust yourself off and get right back in there.
And it's not affecting me emotionally. I'm not beat up about it. Did I cry about it right afterwards? Like, absolutely. It ate me up for 2 days.
Yeah.
But like we always say, as soon as somebody wins, all right, see you Monday.
Yep.
Whether you win or lose, back to work. Let's go.
Yeah, I have a real hard time taking my medals back out of my backpack. So after the podium, it goes in the backpack, and they end up somewhere. I don't know. Some of them I'll put up. Some that I'm. If I had to overcome something, and I just need that reminder that, hey, I can overcome these things. Like whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in my jujitsu life, whatever it is. And I managed to I don't know, maybe pull off a podium when I probably shouldn't have. I'll put that one up, right? Because I want to remind myself, hey man, bad things happen, but just keep plowing ahead. I love it, man.
And I love that. We have so many things in common. So I have 3 medals right behind my head.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Only 3 I have up there are from black belt. And the first one was my first black belt match ever, which was incredible. I ended up losing and getting second place because of how many people were in the division. The second one was against in my division, when I fought the number 3 guy in the world, where I thought I had no chance and I didn't even deserve to be on the mat with him because I'm not even ranked, and he beat me by an advantage. And I was like, it helped me realize, like, I can actually hang with these guys. I deserve this. I'm supposed to be here. My instructor gave me the belt for a reason. I put all this time in for a reason. And then the third one was the absolute. When I won 2 matches in the absolute at black belt. It was the first 2 black belts I've ever submitted. It was just this past May. And the reason why that one was so important to me is because after my division, I didn't sign up for absolute. And it was me and my girlfriend's anniversary. We met at the Atlanta Open. And so Leo calls me and he's like, and when I'm at the tournament, he's at the tournament. And I'm like, why is he calling me? So I answer and he's like, hey, Rick, Andreas got hurt. I put you in the absolute. And I'm like,
oh, shoot.
What? I was like, and, I'm a soldier. So I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But then when I hung up, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And no. And I just lost my match. I got to, I wasn't embarrassed, but I'm like, I'm not even strong enough for these guys because you just lost. So you're insecure.
Yep.
And so I tried to find an out. So I talked to my girlfriend. And I'm like, hey, I know it's our anniversary. And so if you want to go to dinner, like we can go to dinner. We don't have to stay here. And like I can do no-gi tomorrow. And she was like talking to her friend. She's like, no, let's stay. We'll do dinner tomorrow. And I'm like, all right. I tried. I didn't tell anybody that, but I told her that later on.
Yeah.
And then I fought the matches and I submitted the first 2 guys.
Nice.
And I was like, that changed my life.
Yeah.
I was ready to give up. I did not believe in myself. I was nervous. I didn't think I deserved it. That one little instance where my girlfriend made the decision. She really did. And she said to do it, and I did it, and it built so much confidence in me and gave me so much resilience. And I was like, I can actually fight with these guys, and I can do this. And all my friends saw it, and all the people in Atlanta saw it, and they were like, bro, like, you're good. And I finally got some recognition that I felt like I deserved over the past 6 or 8 years. I'm like, I'm so much better at jujitsu than what my performances have been. Like, nobody even knows how, like, you know, I'm being humble, but I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get my jujitsu out there, and I finally showed it. I saw Kenny there, and I saw Bruno Frazzado there, and they were watching my match. I beat one of Bruno's guys, and I was like, finally, like, people got to see that I actually know jujitsu. I'm not just like a coach at a school, right? And so that one was super important to me. So I feel like that was like a monkey off my back. Like, now I can relax, and I think that's why at this Master Worlds, like, I'm not nervous at all.
Yeah.
The nervousness is completely gone because I got to, like, Coach Jacare used to tell me this all the time, which I miss and love Jacare so much. He said, you got to stop focusing on proving and focus on improving. And what I realized is I've always, like, been good at the gym, but never got the recognition because I was one of the older guys and I wasn't one of the young competitors. And I'm like, I'm better than them, but I'm better than them. Like, when you got to recognize that I'm good, like, I got so much technique, and I just never felt like I got that. And so when I finally, and after I lost my match, like the guy in the super fight, I fought his ankle, almost broke his ankle, did an X guard takedown, was passing his guard, was doing all this great stuff. And then I got tapped, and I'm like, no, you just took it from me. Like, that was my moment to show Atlanta that I'm good at jujitsu. So then it was back on my back again. And so after I won those two, I was like, finally, I got to show some jujitsu, and I feel better about myself. But that was an internal struggle. No one else felt that way. Everyone else thinks I'm good, and, you know, all that other stuff. It was just an internal battle that I had.
It's cool that you got over that hump, though. I like how that worked out, even though it wasn't ideal, right? I mean, a phone call in the middle of a tournament when you probably had some food in you, I'd imagine, right? Because you've been starving for
2 Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, exact. And that my stomach was fighting me too, and I'm like, I don't know, you know.
That's got to be uncomfortable. So kind of a similar story, I guess. Brown belt, and Phoenix Open is coming up. It's 2019, and Phoenix Open's coming up, and we had made plans to go to Atlanta in 2020 for support Kenny Kim and do the tournament out there. Anyway, I'm signing up for the Phoenix Open, and I tell my instructor, I'm like, hey, I'm signing up for the Open. It's like a month and a half out. And he says, okay, well, he goes, sign up at black belt. I'm like, wait, what? So I got my black belt 2 days before the Phoenix Open.
Oh, wow.
2 days. My first match was against Sidney Silva. He's a Hickson Gracie black belt. He's also he's a 3-stripe black belt. He's also a judo black belt. And he's been like OG, you know what I mean? Like, his old pictures are with,
that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
First match ever.
Yeah. So actually that was my second match. My first match was a guy named Troy. Troy Acker, I believe his last name is. Troy's a freaking great guy. I run into him all the time, but Troy's a world champion. You know what I mean? He's no slouch, 3-stripe black belt. And I beat Troy thanks to a DQ because he reaped. Yes, I'll take it. But then, the highlight of that tournament was I swept Sidney twice. I lost, but I swept him twice. And I'm going to take that to my grave. I hope Sidney doesn't listen to this podcast. He'll probably kill me one day. But he is a person that I respect, that I follow, that I have a lot of admiration for. And I lost to him by advantage, and I swept him twice. So there's those moments like you had with those 2 submissions that you're like, okay, maybe I do belong, right? Because that belt can feel heavy.
Man, that belt is really, really, especially in the beginning, because you have imposter syndrome. And also it kind of reminds me of what it was like to be a color belt when you roll with a black belt, the fear of the unknown. The reason why white, blue, purple, brown, or whatever, they freeze. I tell them, you freeze in the moment for the fear of the unknown because you think I know magic. I don't know magic. I'm going to do the jujitsu that you know, but you think there's something hidden that you're not prepared for that I'm about to pull out. So you're very hesitant. And that's why you don't approach me that way. Yeah. Right? And I think that's why you see that. So, I completely agree. And then, okay, you're a black belt who just lost, or you're an instructor. Oh my gosh, the instructor lost. And what are the blue and purple and brown belts going to think, right? And, luckily, I think I've been able to kind of, not getting accustomed to losing, but accepting that losing is part of the sport and that everybody does it kind of frees you up to be like, okay,
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. Whether I win or lose, I tell people this all the time. Who was the world champion in 2013 lightweight black belt? 2019 purple belt Atlanta Open double gold champion. So in 24 hours, once you get your likes on Instagram, it's over. Nobody remembers and they move on, whether you win or you lose.
Yeah.
And so once I realized that, I was like, yeah, I don't care that much. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. It's just jiu-jitsu. Right.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Because like I have a friend who opened a school in a really small town in Arizona, like 1,500 square feet type place, and all it is like locals and they bring their kids and stuff like that. And then some friends were like, hey, Dave opened up a school at this place and we're going to drive up there 3 hours and go roll with him. And then his students see him getting submitted and they're like, how is this happening? What's going on here? You know what I mean? And it's just like they're old buddies that, like if you and I roll for 3 years, I'd know what you're going to do. You know what I'm going to do. And I got to get better at what I do than you. And we just get caught. Right. And it's funny you say that, but people, you think we know magic. And I tell that to my new students, my white belts, like there's no magic here. We just understand the system a little bit better than you do. And as soon as you understand the system, you'll be able to counter a lot of the things that I'm throwing at you. But until then, you're going to get caught.
And I think that, so the way I've been teaching lately is I completely agree. I like a systematic approach over a long period of time. That's something that I talked to Rafa Mendez at Pans. Rafa is one of my biggest inspirations. I watch a lot of it. Him and our game is very similar. I attack arm bars a lot, just like he does. That's kind of the style that I like as well. And so when I had my opportunity to finally meet him and talk to him, I asked him about teaching kids. And I said, hey, listen, adults, I'm incredible. I'm great at teaching. I got it. I understand. But the kid thing, I'm having this challenge. Your kids are so amazing. Like at 5 years old, and I can't get a 5-year-old to do a forward or a shred or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he said, the problem is you guys change too much and you give them too much. He said, you guys see the highlights on Instagram. But what you don't realize is we've been working on X guard for a year. And I was like, wow. He said, not a week, not a month, not 3 months, for a year. How to enter X guard, from closed guard, how to get X guard, how to defend X guard, submissions from X guard. And he's like, all we've been working on is X guard. So they're not overwhelmed with all these different positions. He's like, because think about it, over 12 years, let's say there's 12 positions in jiu-jitsu, which generally speaking, there's not that many more than that, really.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, what if you just spent an entire year on, instead of 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, you were just like 1 year closed guard, 1 year half guard, 1 year side control, 1 year. And I'm like, I actually would be better at it because I remember what we did the week before. Instead of mount and then X guard and then bottom side control and then it's all mixed up and it's all in your head. And so that's why I've started to teach that way, where like we just finished the back. We spent 6 weeks on the back, top, bottom, and all the answers. And now we're doing closed guard. And I'm now realizing, which I didn't realize, I think you kind of learned this too, that you don't remember what you didn't remember or didn't know when you were a white belt. So like, for example, you'll teach something. My first class ever, I was like, you know what this gym needs? They need some more dynamic jujitsu. So I'm going to show the berimbolo, right? Because Leo and Jacare are experts at the fundamentals. But I'm like, let me bring in the new style game that everybody's working on, because we're kind of an old school gym.
Yeah.
And so I showed the berimbolo and I watched and I had a realization like, wait, you guys don't even know how to invert.
Yep.
Because I learned to invert on the wall and in drills before I even tried the berimbolo. So then I was like, oh, I need to take a step back even further than that. And so now, like, for example, in closed guard, I said, let's start with controlling the posture. Let's start with the hand fight. Let's start with the grip fight. Before we do any techniques, anything like that, if you can't win the hand fight and the grip fight in the beginning, none of this is going to matter.
Yeah.
So we did that as our drilling. Hey, guys, just hand fight, pass the grips, break the grips. Cool. Let me show you 1 or 2 sweeps. And so next Friday, we're going to do the exact same warm-up. Okay, guys, you remember what we did. Let's do it again. The hand fight drills, the hand fight grips, build it, build it, build it. We did this technique. What if they step their leg up? Okay, what if they put their, and I just keep building on that same thing, but I always re-review what we did the week before. And I try to keep the warm-up drills the exact same fundamental thing, because I know that the hand fight and the grip fight is more important than any of the techniques. So that's going to be in there every single day. And then eventually I'm like, all right, now we have a 4-stage drill or 4-stage sequence. Do it all together. Cool. Now let's add the 5th thing. Now do all 5, and let's just do that for the rest of the class. And then next week we're going to do all 5 plus the 6th one, right?
Wow.
And kind of expand that way. And so I've noticed exponential growth in not only my teaching ability, but also in my students' ability to remember. And, you know, seeing white belts on the back attacking and rolling and being better in positions than they ever were before from this teaching style, I'm like, that was what I needed to do. And what also happens is my students present. This is why I love questions, man. If you're training in jiu-jitsu, I don't care if you're a black belt, and people will tell you at a seminar, I might be annoying. I always ask a question. I don't care if I'm a black belt. They're like, you have a question? I'm like, I'll make up one. I don't really know, but I'm asking a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when students ask me questions, I'm like, that's the detail I didn't show. You're so right. Guys, bring it in. My fault. My fault.
Yes.
I missed this detail because I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then next time I teach that class, I remember that detail to add in. So students don't realize that their questions actually help your instructor get better as well.
What 100%. And so when I was a purple belt, I started teaching the 6 a.m. class because no one else wanted it. And I was an early bird, so I was part of that crew. And every once in a while I'd have a black belt drop in, you know, and, you know, they wouldn't say like, oh, let me show you a better way or anything. They're always really cool with me. I tell all my coaches, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, I don't care who comes into the place, own the room, just own the room, right? Your wrongness is going to be based on way more information than they have, right? So own the room, right? Command the room. So anyway, so I would be teaching, and the feedback that I got was so great because one of my good friends, Dave Blau, he would drop in every once in a while, and Dave would skip warm-ups and he'd tape up and he'd do all this stuff, but he's always paying attention. And, but I love you, Dave.
He's a purple belt?
You know, and he's a black belt. He's a black belt. But he would show up and he'd pull me aside, very respectfully pull me aside and be like, hey, you're doing things instinctively that you're not bringing up in your teaching. I'm like, oh, he's like, yeah, little foot position here, little hand position there. He says, it's making the difference in the technique and you're not pointing that out. And I'm like, oh, so what I started doing, I actually started recording myself teaching, and it blew my mind how much I improved just based on that. Just the words I was using, how I communicate, the attention span in the room, right? You can kind of read the room a little bit better. Made a huge difference in my teaching.
That's so incredible. I completely agree with that. And me and my teammates, we do that as well. I have a purple belt who's my uki every Monday and Wednesday. And he's always like, hey, I was watching the book, and why do you do it this way? And he asked me, why do you do it this way? Not, hey, I saw them do it a different way. And then I explained it. He's like, this is the way I saw it. I'm like, oh, good point. You're right. I forgot. So it's a real humble way to approach, you know, that same scenario. But it's so funny because I was helping a white belt on the side, or a blue belt. We were watching another instructor coach, and I identified the same thing. So he showed a shot on a double leg, and what was happening is his back leg was taking a half step in, which was giving him more leverage into the takedown. And everybody else, when they were shooting, they were very stretched out, so they had no power. And I said, the thing they're missing is that little mini half step he's doing in the back that he's not explaining. Yeah. And they did it over and over. And I said, look, watch. And then he would come back and fix the technique, but solve the problem in a different way that wasn't the actual problem. And I said, he's telling them it's this, but he doesn't even realize he's doing it. And she's like, you're right. And so then I went on the side. I was like, hey, if you watch, it's a little half step because you're too stretched out. You're like in a split, but if you bring your foot in, now you have the power to lunge. And then he brought him back in and he showed him that, and that fixed the problem. But I think you only get that from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Because you do things. We do muscle memory.
Yeah.
My body's, I tell people all the time, I can do jiu-jitsu with my eyes closed. I can fight with my upper hands because I know my legs know what to do. I don't even have to think about it. My legs automatically move. But when you're teaching, that's so tough to do. So having a person to reflect back onto you, record it, because you're going to be your biggest critic, and then you can watch it and be like, oh, you missed the step.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we run a really fundamental curriculum for our white belts. Like you said, like the program that you went back to where they don't live roll. We do that program. So I'll do like I'll do situational type stuff. Like I'll show you the technique in a counter and then we do that. But most of the time it's like, technique all the way through. So I'm able to kind of methodically go through the technique, and we do it for the entire week, the same thing over and over and over. So it's really I've gotten good at showing the technique only because I continuously study the technique. Right. So it would be really easy to tell a black belt, hey man, would you mind go teach a armbar from guard for me tomorrow? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And they just do like the way they do it. Right. But when you actually take time and study the technique and study people that do it at a higher level, man, your teaching just gets so crisp, so precise because you're evolving. You know what I mean? And I have videos of us, we have this YouTube channel where we post the videos from our technique so that students can study technique when they're not training. And I cringe when I watch those 3-year-old videos because my jiu-jitsu at a very fundamental level has evolved even as a black belt. So I love it. I love what it's done for me.
Yeah, I know that. You talked about when you send other people in to teach the technique and they just teach it their own way. I think that is part of the power of why I think being an uki is very powerful because you can feel it from your instructor. Being on the bottom of side control of Leo and on the bottom of mount, because the problem is when he's doing the technique, I'm not paying attention. So then afterwards, I'm like, wait, what were we doing? Because I'm just feeling his pressure and thinking about it. And when he's grabbing me, I'm like, oh, that grip feels a little different. And I feel the way and I'm in my moment, like thinking about what is he doing right now? Why does it feel that way? So that I can take that to that. And I also think that's why it's powerful to go to seminars and go to these other things. And like, I don't am is not worried about learning techniques and learning some new fancy way, but just seeing like how do they teach it or why is that position important to you?
Yeah.
I know why it's important to Leo and important to Alliance and important to our style, but what is your perspective on that? We had Dimitri Souza in our gym this past couple of weeks, and he's an Alliance guy from Rio. And I talked to him about techniques and how we defend. And he's like, here's the way I do it. Here's the way why I do it. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I like that. So now I don't know if that one's better for me or not, but now I have both options. And now I can kind of play and see and realize, like you were talking about being stubborn, that it's not just one way. Actually, you could do it this way if you're more athletic or if you're taller or if you're fatter or you're faster or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I love that too.
Yeah.
Just learning and growing as an instructor is just, it's such an experience. Man, it's made me so much better at jujitsu. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Even just helping other people, I tell people all the time, they thank me all the time, but I'm the one who should be thanking you because you're giving me the opportunity to work on my game very meticulously. See the moment and talk to you and say, no, you forgot step 1. You forgot step 2. You forgot. So now when I'm training, I'm like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And so that's why one of my quotes is, if you want to thank me, you thank me by giving back to the next person. Pass it along to the next person. Because I think that if you want to change your game, teach and help other people. It'll be revolutionary for your jiu-jitsu.
And think of it this way also. When you're teaching, because I'm sure this happened to you as a young instructor, you study the technique, or like you're coming in day one, maybe you have your little notes and stuff like that, and you're so excited to teach, and then you read the room and you're like, this ain't gonna work today. This is just not gonna work today. Or you're in the middle of teaching and you're killing it in your own head, right? You're just knocking it out of the park. And then there's somebody with a 20-inch inseam going, I can't do that. Right. So you have to relearn how to do things so that person with the short legs can do maybe a modified version of that move. But what that did for me is when I'm in competition and I have a guy with short legs going after the same thing, I'm thinking, okay, he has to do this to modify it because there's no way he can be square with me and execute this move. So all I have to do is take that away from him and I can pass his guard. And that just goes through my head, man. And it's a split second kind of thing, but it's helped me so much. Long legs, long arms, short arms, loose gi, right? Big lapels, all of that stuff. Teaching taught me how to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even it's so funny when you talk about like reading the room. I'm a lot more comfortable now in my own shell of being a black belt instructor than I used to be. I used to be, and I still have these moments where you're kind of insecure about what you're teaching. Like, is it even right? Which you know it's right, but you feel like it's wrong,
Yeah.
right? Is it even? Do they even like it? Do they want to do it? Do they, are they gonna like? I think about, do these people even learn the same way I learn? Maybe I'm teaching them the way that I learn, and some of them learn visually, or some of them learn audibly, or some of them learn slower, or some of them learn faster. Or have you ever had this? And I think about this with the instructors all the time. You're teaching a move, and you know how you look around the room when you're talking to them, and you just get blank stares from every single person, and then you're like, wait, is that me or is that just y'all? And then what you realize is, like, when people are watching jujitsu, they just have a blank stare and it has nothing to do with what you're showing or what you're teaching.
Yeah.
And then when you're teaching, you're like, God, maybe your guys aren't going to like this. And then you try to switch it up. And so I've just learned to just not worry about that so much, have faith, have confidence in myself, know that what I'm showing, whether I think it's right or not, somebody in that room is going to get value.
Yeah. Yeah.
If one person, and this happens all the time, one person will come up to me and said, so I like to do unique things in my class. Like at the end of class, for example, something that I started doing that I didn't realize was so powerful, but I thought that people would like it, is so I taught mount escapes a couple weeks back. And what I did is at the end of class, I spent 5 minutes in the Shark Tank of putting every single person to mount me and showing the escape. And I escaped. I'm like, all right, next person, come in. Boom, escape. Next person, escape. Boom, next person, escape. Next person, escape. Next person, escape. Not to show the class that I can beat everyone and I'm better than everyone, but showing the techniques, how it actually needs to be executed in live training. Because drilling it and actually executing it are two completely different things. And they saw me struggle. They saw purple belts wearing me out, me not being able to get it. And I said, and then I talked to them and I said, what did you guys see? What did you guys see in the whole thing? Well, we saw, one of the things they said is, you were really patient. You waited for it. And I was like, exactly. Because if I try to do it, he knows. And we saw that if one didn't work, you went to the other one. And I'm like, yes, like these are the things that I think will be so monumental for your jiu-jitsu. But so then I started doing that in other positions. Like, all right, guys, attack. I asked the class the other day, I said, what was harder for you, attacking or defending the back? And they're like, defending was way harder than attacking. I said, cool, I'm going to defend. Black belts first. Let's go. Boom, escape, escape, escape. Oh, that guy choked me. Hey, you guys just saw me tap in front of the whole class. It's all good. Not a big deal, right? The next. And what I realized was, especially maybe the newer generation white belts, or maybe it's like when you come in or what your goals are in jiu-jitsu. When I came into jiu-jitsu, I was competitive immediately.
Yeah.
Bruno Malfacini was my first instructor at Alliance. And so I jumped into Worlds, IBJJF, watching him from day one. So I always seen high-level jiu-jitsu being executed. Well, my white belts have never seen anyone ever escape mount before. They said, I've seen you drill it, but I've never seen anyone actually execute it. Wow. And that was mind-blowing to me. And I was like, oh, you don't even know what this actually looks like when somebody does it right.
Yeah.
When they're fighting. So then I do a live roll. I said, hey guys, 3 minutes. I'm going to roll. Me and Steve are going to roll in front of the whole class, and you guys can just watch and see what I do. And now they've seen a black belt execute the moves.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, not everyone obsesses over YouTube and watches Flow Grappling all day. Like,
yeah.
And that was a major realization. And people, the amount of people that have come up and complimented me on that specific part is more than anything I've ever done. They're like, that helped me so much. Like, just watching you do it and execute it has tremendously. Now I understand more because I can see it. And I'm like, So think about implementing that, actually showing live training in front of all your students. They'll appreciate it.
I love that. I love that idea.
Think about this. This is the part that I didn't think about. When you're white, blue belts, and when everybody's rolling, nobody's watching other people. They're rolling too.
That's right.
So they don't ever get to see you. So I stopped the class, made a circle, and said, eyes on me. Let's go. Worst position.
Wow. That's awesome. That's
awesome. Very powerful.
I think it is. I'm definitely going to implement that. I think that's great. And that kind of leads me into my next question. My next segue, I guess. You had talked about when you're creating content and just putting stuff out there. You're talking about getting a little bit more diligent and getting, daily stuff out, maybe, a couple times a day now. What is it that keeps people from hitting record and putting things out there?
Insecurity. They are insecure about their camera. They're insecure about their editing. They're insecure about the way they look. They're insecure about their knowledge. They're insecure about their ability for public speaking. They're insecure about people they don't even actually care about are going to think. All of those different things. And I was fortunate enough to be forced into the position because my professional career started in automotive, where I was a car salesman. And then I also worked at a advertising firm where I had to sell in front of car dealers. And so it was kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, where my, CEO was like, you're going to wear a suit every Wednesday. You're going to get in front of the entire company and you're going to pitch. And if you want to eat, because that's how I made my money, you're doing it.
Wow.
And so then I had to figure it out. So I got more comfortable in front of the camera. And I think that helped me a lot from just practice. But I think the average person way overcomplicates everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need fancy cameras. I do everything on an iPhone 12 right now. I'm going to upgrade because I want better quality. But I recorded on an iPhone. And what you'll actually find in 2023 is user-generated content that's not heavily edited actually is more popular because it's real.
Yeah.
People are tired of fake.
Yeah.
When I do advertising for companies and I say, hey, I need you to make me a video, I said, but please don't make me a commercial. I don't need a commercial. I need something real. Just record this one little segment and then we'll put in some filler and put some stuff, but I need some emotion. I need some normal. You don't have to be uptight. Just walk around with a cell phone and talk to the camera and be natural. Well, what should I wear? I don't care. Doesn't matter. The background, just try. Write a little basic script, like that. Because there's someone out there who can always resonate with you. And people are tired of fake.
Yeah.
They're tired of fake. And so I think, and that's something that you talked about earlier with your content. I actually asked a guy about that. And I said, man, listen, I have a professional business. I have jujitsu and I have my personal stuff. And I can't figure out, should I make another page where I just do this and he's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
He's like, people want to see all parts of you. They actually will resonate with you more if you show them that you do other things besides that. Cause then they could be like, oh, I'm just like Rick. He just also owns a business.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to kind of open up a little bit more and not be so uptight, but I totally understand because I get negative comments all the time and people talking trash and all that stuff. But it's the same way.
Fantastic, by the way. I love the negative comments. They're fantastic.
Yeah. No, I know that. Well, you can create more content off of it.
Yeah.
Right. And also it makes I try to think about it in a positive way. It just makes me want to work harder.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove to you. Okay, cool. I love haters. Good. I'm going to prove to you that I can do it even more. Oh, you think my videos are stupid? Good. I'm going to do 2 more.
Yeah.
Right. But I think one of the things that helps me is it's just like in jiu-jitsu where if one person in the room got some value out of it, then it was a worthwhile decision. And that's the same thing that happens to me in content. Somebody in my personal life that didn't comment, didn't say anything, said, man, my aunt who lives, I had a family reunion. My aunt who lives in Massachusetts, who I've never even interacted on social media with ever, said, I watch all your stuff. I love all your motivational stuff. It really resonates with me. I love it. And I'm just like, really? Like, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do more.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. I don't think about it. I said this. So this is a little bit of a personal thing, but this happened to me in jiu-jitsu. When I was coming up at Alliance, I became very popular with Jacare very early on because I helped him with marketing and I was helpful and a student at Uki. And I was just one of those guys who always helped.
Yeah.
And that kind of led to some animosity with some of the other higher belts who thought that they deserved what I got. And they thought, well, the only reason you got your brown belt is because Jacare likes you. The only reason you got your black belt is because Leo likes you, And so then what happened is sometimes, and this happens at big schools, when Leo's not coaching and I'm teaching, certain people don't come to class.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm not good enough for them. Right. They only learn from Leo Nogueira.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I said to one of the classes, I said, all of you guys saw that person walk into class with their gym. bag, they saw who was instructing, and they walked out and left. I know all of you saw that.
Yeah.
And I said, but it's not about them. It's about you.
Yeah.
It's about the people who are here. It's about the people who care. It's about the people who get value out of it. So I don't focus on them. The 5 negative people, I focus on the 40 that are happy to be here. And so when I do that with my content and not worry about likes and comments and shares and all of that, I have to remember why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to help people, not to grow in popularity, not to get money. I'm a humanitarian at heart. So if I help people, then that's all the likes and shares I need. So that's what I try to keep my mind focused on. That's why I don't look at the metrics. If I look at the metrics, if I looked at my comments and shares right now, I would never do content ever again.
Yeah.
Right? And Gary Vee said that. He said, oh, but what if I don't get, why are you even looking at likes and shares? Is that why you're doing it? And it just reminds me that's not why I'm doing it.
I love that. Yeah. 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 So
vanity metrics will get you.
100%. So do me a favor. I want you to, cause this applies to me as well, because I make a lot of content and I hesitate. I probably hesitated 10 times more than I actually created.
Yeah.
Of insecurities, right? So what I'd like for you to do is just like challenge me, challenge anybody listening to that wants to start creating, but they're just, that insecurity comes out. Just give them a little challenge and give them that little kick in the ass that they need right now.
So what I would say is, I think ultimately you have to find your why. If you don't have a why and a purpose for why you're doing it, it's not going to matter, right? So for me personally, the reason why I do absolutely anything, if you drill down to the core and you get all the way down to the oil, the reason why I do it is for my mom. My mom sacrificed her entire life for me. She didn't go to college. She didn't move different jobs. She stayed in the same job she hated for her entire life for 30 years so that I could go to college, so that I could drive a Tesla, so I could live in a bigger home than she's ever lived in her entire life. I live a better life than my parents have ever lived in their entire life.
Wow.
And so no matter what I do, whether it comes to jujitsu, making money, making content, whatever it is, whenever I don't feel like doing it, I think about my mom. And I think about how she doesn't make that much money right now. And she doesn't have the opportunity that I have. She can't make content. She didn't learn technology. She does. I mean, we live in such a world of abundance right now that if you are not making money offline, like online, you are just lazy. Like, yeah. I'll be straight up honest with you. It's too easy. Yeah. It's too easy. So I try to remind myself like why I'm doing this. And it's because I set out a goal to pay my parents back and give them a life, at least in the last 20, 30 years of their life, to live how I've lived, which is lazy and a life of abundance. I've had better cars, better houses, more vacations than they've ever had in their entire lifetime. They've lived twice as long as I have. That to me is personally insulting. So when I think about not waking up, not doing content, not doing my job, slacking off, I always remember, man, would I do this to my mom? No, nope, I will not. So I absolutely challenge every single person here to make one. Start very simply. If you ask me today, Rick, how do I get in better shape? I would tell you, go to the gym every single day for 30 days and do anything. I'm not going to give you a fitness plan. I'm not going to make you start drinking water and don't eat carbs and cut back on your salt and get a fitness. You're never going to do all of those things. Yeah. So you have to start very simply. I'm going to start first. Let's keep it even simpler than that. On my iPhone right now, I'll show you guys. I have a note that's called TikTok videos. I may not make the content right now, but I make a note. Hey, here's a video I want to make. Or I have a folder in my Instagram called inspirational videos to remake later. And I save it to that folder. And then now I'm going to say, you know what? Really what it takes, you know what it takes? It's the same thing that it took me to start my entrepreneurial journey. I had to get pissed off. I had to get pissed off. And my old company one day pushed me over the edge. This is a little bit of a side topic, but generally speaking, did you know that men don't break up with women? Women break up with men. Because men have to get completely pissed, completely fed up, pushed past their line before they're finally like, enough is enough. And that's what I had to do with work. I had to say, I took abuse in employment for many, many years and years and years until I finally said, Rick, are you embarrassed enough? is this like, we're just going to take this? Is this all you have amounted to? And like, you're just going to be a slave and you're just going to let people whip you forever and disrespect you like that? Or are you going to stand up for yourself? And I decided to stand up for myself. And that was one of the most powerful things I ever did in my entrepreneurial journey. I bet on me.
Mm-hmm.
And confidence only, Alex Hormozi said this, confidence only comes from consistently proving to yourself that you can do it. It's not false. It's because I've proven to myself that I can overcome. And once I did that, I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I'm just as smart as they are. I'm just as powerful as they are. And so I think some people just have to get fed up. If you're comfortable in your life right now and you don't need to make content, you're not going to.
Yeah.
Because you're comfortable, right? You have to find a challenge within yourself. That's why another thing I pull from a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone said something that was very powerful. He said, I stay broke because if I have money in my account, I'm lazy. He's like, that's why I always reinvest my money. I look at my money every day. I'm broke. Got to go to work.
Wow.
He's worth $400 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I noticed that about myself. When I get a big check,
that works, right?
Yeah. I invest and put that money out and try to get it away from me. So I stay desperate and I stay broke and I stay chasing. And so when I'm not like that, that's when I use my mom. I always use her. I call her. I remember. I think about her. I go to their house and I just look around and I just like, I couldn't live like this. And my parents are living like this. Nope. Got to go to work Monday.
I love it.
Got to get right back to it. Got to make that content. Right. Yeah. And I just know another thing that motivates me too is I preach content so much to my clients that how can you preach what you don't put into practice yourself?
Yeah. Good point.
And so I think about that. Right. So one of the things that I love about social media and the reason why I proclaim the way I proclaim is so the world can hold me accountable. I want to tell you on camera that I'm a high quality person that you absolutely can rely on 100% all the time. Because now you can save this clip and you can send it to me when I don't.
Yeah, that's putting it out there. That's definitely.
It happened to me one time. I had a beef with a personal relationship, and that person outed me on social media. And I went back on social media and said, and defended myself. This is not what happened, blah, 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 blah. And this guy's this piece, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I was like, okay, good. I defended myself like I'm good. And my little brother called me. And he's 22 years old. He said, Rick. I was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what's up? He's like, that post you made. Why did you do that? I'm like, what do you mean? And I was like, explain to myself. He's like, that's not what we do, bro. He's like, you're better than that. You don't respond to that. You putting it out. He's like, I didn't even know that happened to you until you responded to it. And I was like, you're right, bro. My bad. Yeah. I deleted it. And that was one of the most powerful things that ever happened to me that came to that. I said, you know what? He's right about that. So that's why I try to like, it's like a built-in accountability. I've learned this a lot about fitness. The 3 pillars of fitness, Alex Hormozi: fitness, nutrition, accountability.
Yep.
Accountability is the most important one.
Agreed. Yeah.
And like I said, my mom tells me I'm the smartest person. I'm the greatest. I'm in the best shape. And that's why I love jujitsu. Jacare would after training be like, hit you on the belly, man, you've been eating too much cheese. And some people get offended by that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he just told me I'm fat. I look at that and I'm like, you're right.
Yep.
You're right. And I need that. That's what I need in my training partners. Leo told me one time, hey man, smoking that vape is the reason why you're tired in the gym all the time. I'm like, I didn't even know that you noticed.
Wow.
And once he said that, I was like, so now what do you think I think about? I think Leo knows that I did that, and now I need to push harder, and I'm going to stop doing that because he held me accountable to things. So that's one of the things that I love about jiu-jitsu. I tell people, if you don't like pressure, don't step in that door.
Yeah.
Not just pressure from positioning, but pressure from everyone around you to be a higher quality person than you were when you came in.
Yep.
And I need that in my life. And that's why I live there, because I don't have that anywhere else. I tell people all the time, like in my general sphere of influence, I'm at the top of the pyramid. In jiu-jitsu, I'm at the bottom. Top is too comfortable. I don't want to be at the top.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about improving your circle. So I want to get to people that are smarter, better, more powerful, more influential than I am, so that I feel, and I have to grow, and right. So that's one of the powerful things about jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I would challenge anybody. You got to put your content out there. You can't worry about what anyone thinks. You have to remember why you're doing it, and you have to do it for yourself. There is somebody out there. There's another child who was abused as a kid, who had a drug problem, who went to jail, who fought through it, who got their first job, who finally bought their first business, got their first home, got their first family, went through the same struggles you are, or are trying to get there, and they think they're alone right now.
Yeah.
They think they're by themselves. They think there's no answer. They think there's no way out. I used to think there was no way out. And then I found these small people who'd been through the same things I did, and I just started checking off each little box, building brick by brick, just like you do in jiu-jitsu. And then you come out the other end. It's a reason why I have a phoenix tattoo, right? This is a phoenix rise from the ashes.
Yeah.
I had to be, it's funny, I talk about this. I'm also from the city of Atlanta that's known for crumbling and being rebuilt.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that so much. I had to crumble to be rebuilt. And that's something you get through jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu beats you down to the lowest of the low. Jiu-jitsu puts you in the basement.
Yeah.
Then it lets you dig your way up like a zombie back through. And then you start to rise up, right? And you become a more powerful person. And that's why jiu-jitsu to me is almost like a religion. It's just something so special that the average person could never understand unless they feel it.
Agreed.
I wish the entire world could feel it. That's why I'm a big proponent of any jiu-jitsu is good jiu-jitsu. I don't care if it's online, if it's Gracie Academy. I don't care what it is. No gi, whatever. Just do it, man, and it'll change your life. And if it was required in school, we'd have a completely different society than we have.
Absolutely, man. And that's really powerful. I've got two more questions for you.
Sure.
And before we close out, first I want to say thank you for taking the time, man. This was awesome. I learned a lot. I took a bunch of notes. I'm stealing a couple things from you. I hope you don't mind.
Love it.
But there's
Same for you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. There's two things that I ask every black belt, and especially instructors. Number one is your legacy. How do you want to be remembered?
First and foremost, I want to be remembered. This was really important to me when in Master Worlds at Brown Belt, when I was making my transition to Black Belt. I had been an instructor for a while, didn't quite get the respect in the school that I thought I deserved. And maybe at the time I didn't deserve it. You know, I don't really know. I evolve over time. And Jacare pulled me aside, and I had a close conversation with him. And he said, Rick, I'm 73, 70 years old. I can't be there anymore. I put 50 years into jiu-jitsu. This is all I can do. It's now on you. And I took that and I thought about it, and I took it very personally. And then I had to decide, was jiu-jitsu, Alliance headquarters, the standard that Jacare had put into me, going to fall on my watch? And it is not. Somebody else down the line later on, when I pass it to them, if they fumble the ball, that's on them. But I'm not fumbling the ball. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, what the Gracies meant, what the Gracies wanted, what Jacare wants, what all the other people, the lifestyle, all of that, the experience that everyone gets from white to black belt, I'm not cheating anyone out of that. I want to make sure that if you come to Rick for jiu-jitsu, that I give you the world-class experience that I received, that I'm the training partner that you always wanted, the friend that you always wanted, the coach that you always wanted, the instructor that you always wanted, the motivator that you always wanted, the person who likes your post, the person who shares your post, the person who sends you messages about your opponent, the person who does the research for you, the person who checks in with you when you're not feeling well, the person who gives you advice about your information. Anything you possibly need, you can count on me to be there and always be that person. And I think that if more people did that, we'd have a better world. So again, I try to be the change that I see in the world. And if I could be a world-class person on the mat, that's my entire goal. And if I accomplish that, I'll be happy.
I love it, man. I love it. Last question. Lineage. What do you want all of the black belts that you promote to have in common?
If I'm ever blessed with the opportunity to present a black belt, I think there's a couple of quotes that really resonate with me that I've learned throughout jiu-jitsu. And one of the first ones that I learned that really changed my life is every day is a new day to change. And so you don't have to be stuck in your old ways. You can always learn new things. You can learn from new people. And just because you made mistakes doesn't mean you can't make it better in the past. And doesn't just because you're great today doesn't mean you'll be bad tomorrow. And having that flexibility and being able to flow like water, like Bruce Lee always talks about, I think that's very important. The second one is helping people understand and for them to understand that jiu-jitsu in life is a roller coaster. And if you fix jiu-jitsu, it'll fix your life. Somebody told me that a long time ago. Every time I take a break from jiu-jitsu, my life falls apart.
Yeah.
Because I just need it so much. And so if we can find a way to get that to resonate with the people and help them understand too, I think they'll stick more to it and they'll be more consistent and they'll start to see the parallels between their life and jiu-jitsu. And the last one I think this is probably the most important. And I think a lot of people disagree with me because they're kind of like muscle heads and like a little too over the top about jiu-jitsu. And that is that my number one goal of jiu-jitsu is to do it forever. And so every time I teach a technique, every time I talk to a person, every moment in jiu-jitsu, 10% of my brain is always thinking, I want to do this forever.
Yeah.
So what does that mean exactly? When I'm about to get a sweep against a bigger opponent and I feel the leverage is not there and it feels a little dangerous on my lower back, I don't go for the sweep. Even in a tournament. Yeah. If I'm going for a position, I go super hard and I feel something that's going to detriment my arm or my neck or my ability to do jiu-jitsu in the future, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. I will lose a tournament. People ask me all the time, do you want to win and break your arm or lose? I'd rather lose.
Yeah.
I would breaking. You know what taught me that too? This is something that I didn't actually want to come from me breaking my arm. When I came back, a couple of people were like, bro, you're such a savage. You let that dude break your arm and you kept fighting. And I said, man, that's not me. No, I made a mistake. I should have tapped, bro. That was not cool. That was not savage. That was not awesome. That was bad decision making. You're like, what do you mean? It looks so tough. That's not what I'm about. Yeah. That is not what I'm about at all. My goal, and I've seen this from watching other people, Kurt Osiander, Jacare, all these old school guys who at 50, 60 years old can't even really train anymore.
Yeah.
And then I watch Helio Gracie, who I've seen Helio Gracie's last roll when he was 93 years old. And I was like, which one do I want?
Right.
And so then every time I'm coaching someone and talking to them and I hear that in them, I like, just remind you, what's the number one goal in jiu-jitsu? To get a submission? No. Deeper than that. What's the number one goal? To get better at self? No. What's the number one goal of jiu-jitsu? The number one goal of jiu-jitsu is to do this for the rest of their lives.
I love it. Yeah.
And so if I can pass that on to anyone watching this, every time you make a micro decision and you're trying to decide what the best thing is, just think, will this help me do jiu-jitsu forever? And if that answer is no, then you shouldn't do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, Rick, believe it or not, we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes. And it feels like we've been doing this for 10 seconds. So this is probably one of my favorite podcasts that I've recorded, man. I'm so glad we connected. I will see you out in Vegas. I'll be out there. We leave Wednesday. We come back Sunday. So I hope we run into each other. I'll hit you up when I'm out there.
Let's do it, man. Let's connect for sure. I'm excited. Well, hey, no, we're going to make some content while we're out there.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll hit you up as soon as I get into town.
Cool, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
You take care.
Thank you.